Incentives are pervasive in every aspect of society. People are rewarded for taking certain actions, and not rewarded for taking others. Workers are paid for their effort and productivity.
Thank you.
Salespeople are paid for their sales.
Thank you.
And small business owners are rewarded with profits for successful ventures. So long as these incentives are well understood by everyone, they work reasonably well. They motivate effort, performance, and social welfare. But sometimes, individuals have incentives that conflict with their professional responsibilities, often in ways that are not transparent to the public, or even in their own mind. These conflicts of interest produce serious economic and social problems.
Conflict of interest has the potential to undermine the impartiality of a person due to the possibility of a clash between the person's self-interest and professional or public interest. In the field of academics, research done by professors of prestigious universities are highly vulnerable. A conflict of interest in research exists when the individual has interest in the outcome of the research that may lead to a personal advantage and that might therefore, in actuality or appearance, compromise the integrity of the research.
The documentary Inside Job, which won an Oscar this year for alleging conflicts of interest in economics. We sat down in New York recently with its director, Charles Ferguson. A major focus of the film, economists not disclosing their funding sources, right?
True, but even more seriously, economists being corrupted by their funding sources, which they also don't disclose.
Academic conflict of interest, as it happens, is now much in the news.
It was revealed a few days ago that Monitor Group, a consulting firm founded by a Harvard Business School professor, had been paid by the Libyan government millions of dollars a year to support the public image of Libya, and had used very prominent professors to do this who did not disclose their payments by the Libyan government.
Inside Job focuses on the financial crisis of 2008 and the role of academic economists writing rosy forecasts like this one about Iceland.
The economy has already adjusted to financial liberalization, while prudential regulation and supervision is generally quite strong.
Not long after, of course, Iceland's banking system blew up. The paper was written by Columbia University economist and former Fed Governor Frederick Mishkin.
How much were you paid to write it?
I was paid, I think the number was, it's public information.
In order to prevent conflict of interest, Texas A&M Corpus Christi began following the Texas A&M University System Regulation, which uses federal law and regulations to evaluate if a financial supplement will create a bias in the research. This policy is posted on our university website, and we encourage students to view it.
Conflicts of interest are pervasive in markets and in society, and can motivate professionals to act in ways that violate their responsibilities and hurt their clients and employers. Doctors, for example, may face a conflict of interest when they are paid more for some procedures than for others.
Step right up.
Their professional responsibility is to do what is best for the patient, but their financial incentive is not always aligned with this responsibility. If an oncologist profits from selling chemotherapy agents to their patients, and some agents are more expensive than others, this conflict becomes a problem. Most doctors would never think of profiting in ways that hurt their patients, but some may, either consciously or subconsciously.
In addition to conflict of interest in academics, another area that experiences this problem is the medical field. One particular example of pharmaceutical conflict of interest is in the prescription of Fosamax prescribed to treat the effects of osteopenia. Osteopenia is different from osteoporosis. Osteopenia, it turns out, is a slight thinning of the bones that naturally occurs as women get older and typically does not result in disabling bone breaks. One patient in particular, Katie Bangenhauser, shared her story with NPR. After taking a health-conscious decision to get a bone scan, Bangenhauser received results that she had osteopenia and was recommended by her doctor to begin taking Fosamax. After consulting with other women her age, she found that 5 of the 6 women in her office, over 50, were also currently being treated for osteopenia. Osteopenia is a relatively new diagnosis. In fact, until the 90s, very few people were familiar with the term. It was actually coined to describe the weakening of bones before signs of osteoporosis. However, weakening of bones occurs in everyone as time goes on. So with the ability to practically diagnose any aging woman with this, the potential market for Fosamax was enormous. In order to diagnose osteopenia, women would need to find that they had lowering bone density, and so bone density machines began being placed in doctors' offices across America. This allowed Fosamax to become a blockbuster drug, one that made over $1 billion a year. But increasingly, bone scientists say Fosamax and drugs like it are not necessarily a win for most women with osteopenia. There was no difference in the number of non-spine fractures you had, whether you took the medicine or a placebo, says Susan Ott, a professor of medicine at the University of Washington. It does make your bone density go up higher, but the number of fractures is what really matters, and that did not change. She also worries that taking these medications long-term, over 10 years or more, might actually make bones brittle and cause them to fracture. There is no denying that drug companies produce incredible drugs that can greatly relieve suffering. But one way they profit from these drugs is to extend their use to as many people as possible, which frequently means medications are used in populations with milder and milder versions of the disease, so that the risks of medicating can come to outweigh the benefits. What many do not realize is that systems are created between drug companies and doctors in order to make the most profit, rather than to put the best interests of the patients first.
The problem with conflict of interest is that it leads to corruption and greed. Most of the time, these conflicts of interest go unnoticed by the average citizen. The solution to this problem is an ideal offered by philosopher Kant. He says, act so that you treat humanity, whether in your own person or in that of another, ways as an end and never merely as a means. In conclusion, it is important for active citizens to inform themselves by doing personal research, such as investigating their school's financial policy, which is posted on the website, or looking into any possible ulterior motives doctors might have when writing prescriptions, before they blindly accept something they believe is in their best interest.